Alright, what's up guys? It's Matt here. What's up? I am back with another Kingdom Hearts 4 video for you guys today. It's been a while since I've gotten to talk about this. It may seem ridiculous to have this discussion that we're going to talk about here now, because it seems a little too early, but I think that we can make some inferences on what we know so far, and I think it's a worthy discussion to have because of what happened last time. Let's get into it. So, as we all know at this point, Kingdom Hearts 4 was officially announced by Square Enix and Tetsuya Nomura back in April of this year at the 20th anniversary event. A big surprise for a lot of people. I don't think many people were expecting it. It's going to be a whole new era of Kingdom Hearts, a whole new story arc, a whole new vision for Kingdom Hearts, a whole new art style. The gameplay trailer that they showed didn't show too much in terms of what the game is actually going to be like. They showed some cutscenes that were going to be in the game, some areas that were going to be in the game, a possible Star Wars world, and some gameplay, which probably is pre-rendered. But with a lot of Square Enix games that get announced, and like most games nowadays, honestly, there was no indication of when the game was going to release, what kind of release window that they're kind of expecting. They basically just said, hey, we're working on the game. Here's what we think it's going to be like. Eat on that until we show you something next. At the end of the trailer, they said magic in the making, which I'm assuming is their new version of now in development, which was used for Kingdom Hearts 3 for a while until an official date was shown. So by that indication and comparison, it seems like they're hinting at we're going to be waiting a little bit for this game. How long will that wait be? Well, that's what we're going to discuss in this video right here. We're going to try to ascertain a possible release year for Kingdom Hearts 4. Here, based on what we know so far, what has happened in the past, and statements that are made by the development team, Tetsuya Nomura, and things like that. So the big thing that I think people are worried about and why they're concerned and trying to figure out when this game is going to release is what happened with Kingdom Hearts 3. Because that game was announced at E3 2013. Between the announcement in June of 2013 and the eventual release of the game in January of 2019, that's about a 5.5-year wait. I was there throughout the entire process. I made this channel the day after Kingdom Hearts 3 came out and pretty much covered it up until the point it released. So I'm pretty familiar with the wait for that game. It was pretty intense. It was pretty long. But there were some big contributing factors as to why that game took so long to come out. Firstly, I think this was a problem with a lot of Square Enix games at the time, is that they announced the game right as the game started development. Like, they had barely even began prototyping for Kingdom Hearts 3. I think they started in about late 2012. Almost immediately after that, they announced it in mid-2013. They had barely got anything done with the game at that point. It's been done with other Square Enix games, like they did that with Versus 13/15, and that game took about 10 years, and you know, there's a lot of development trouble with that, and Kingdom Hearts 3 had development trouble too. I think they did that same thing with a 7 remake, but that development was less turbulent. It did have some troubles, but you know, took less time. It took about 5 years for that to come out. And the second and probably biggest reason why it took so long is because it had to switch engines midway through development. Kingdom Hearts 3 originally ran on the Luminous engine, which was an in-house engine developed by Square Enix themselves for use in pretty much all of their games for a while. At least that's what they wanted. They decided to scrap the Luminous engine and use Unreal Engine 4 instead. And if you don't know about game development, you can't just transfer an asset from one engine to a completely different one. You have to pretty much start from scratch. So that's what they had to do. They had the concept and like worlds and story, all that stuff laid out. They just had to rebuild the game itself from scratch. So now that we have that context of Kingdom Hearts 3, let's see what we can derive from Kingdom Hearts 4 as of what we know so far. Firstly, we know that the game has been at least pre-production since 2019, right after Kingdom Hearts 3 got released. They've been working on the scenario and story and pretty much structure for the series going forward, where they want to take it and stuff like that. They've been forming this for the past 3 years now. Pandemic has obviously affected things as well, and maybe have slowed things down a little bit on that since they had to work from home for a while. But we know that they've been working on the concept of it since 2019. 2, we know that the game is going to be using Unreal Engine 5. The trailer that we saw back in April was actually using Unreal Engine 4 assets and footage, but that was just for use of the trailer to kind of announce and show off the game and what they want the game to be like. And also presumably because Unreal Engine 5 is a relatively new engine, so they haven't had as much time to experiment and develop the game with that engine. So for the time being, they just showed off the game with the Unreal Engine 4. And the next time that we see it, we'll be using Unreal Engine 5, and it will look much better. 3, we know that the game is going to be using a more realistic art style. They're going to be in more realistic environments, more based off of contemporary real-world places. Quadratum, the world that they show in the trailer, is based off of Shibuya in Tokyo, and presumably the worlds that we're going to be going to in this game are going to be based off the live-action movies instead of the animated ones. So a lot more work put into the textures, models, environments, things like that. So now that we have that information in mind, let's see what we can infer onto a possible release date for this game. The big thing I can infer from this is that it's going to be a shorter wait time, I think, at least from announcement to release, not like it was with Kingdom Hearts 3, because for one, we know that they've been already working on the game for about 3 years now. It's been pre-production, yes, and pandemic has put a big wrench in that cog, but they've already probably got the scenario and story laid out so far. They've got that laid out. They're working on developing the world and experimenting with stuff. They've presumably been doing that with Unreal Engine 4, and that's what we're seeing in the trailer right here, the prototype version of Kingdom Hearts 4, and they are starting work in Unreal Engine 5, which is still relatively new, but somewhat familiar to the development team because it is a branch off of Unreal Engine 4 itself. I see it very, very unlikely that they change engines because, again, they're already used to the Unreal Engine style. They used an in-house engine before, and it really didn't work out for them, so I don't think they want to repeat that. So they're going to be sticking with Unreal Engine 5, most likely. But we are experiencing a new art style, a more realistic, more detailed art style on next-gen consoles. As generations go, as games get more detailed and more immersive and bigger and better, it takes even longer to make. This generation is going to be the waiting game, most likely, because games are just getting so big and so expensive and so detailed and so vast that they just need all that time to work on it. That is something that you have to keep into account as well. So now that we have all that information in mind, let us try to narrow down somewhat of a release of this game. So firstly, like I mentioned, I do think it's going to be less of a wait between announcement and release than what it was with Kingdom Hearts 3. So it's definitely going to be less than 5 years, I would say. So that knocks 2027 out of the ranking right there. Going into about 2026, I would say, probably the latest I would guess that this game's going to come out. They already have familiarity somewhat with the engine that they're using. It is different, yes, there is a lot of advancements in the engine, but it is off of the same base, and they are already familiar with the tools and workspace that there was with Unreal Engine 4, probably very similar with Unreal Engine 5. That maybe knocks a year or so off. What might negate that, though, is with COVID. That's obviously affected a lot of things. It may not have been a big factor because they were still in early pre-production at that time, so they may not have done prototyping or experimenting yet at that point. But, you know, working from home could obviously be a factor. But also, there's next gen being much more expensive and taking much more time to make. That's a factor in there, too, that might negate that year. My best guess for a range of when this game could release is mid to late 2024 or 2026. That's my most educated guess. Keep in mind, again, that this is just based off of the little information that we have so far. So I don't know if I can make too accurate of a guess as to what this game's release is going to be. I'm just going off the very little information that we have so far. We're going to have to wait and see what more information comes out in the future. Literally right as I was making this video, Nomura made an interview where he talks a lot about Kingdom Hearts 4. So if you want to go see what all that's about, I made a video on it. You can go check it out with the card up at the top right there. We will get to see some more footage of it in Unreal Engine 5 and how good it looks. It's probably going to look so good. I'm so excited. And we'll get some more general information on how development's going and what a possible release could be. So stay tuned for that. But now I want to pass the question off to you. When do you think this game is going to be coming out? Do you agree with the range that I have determined here? Do you think it's going to be coming out even earlier, maybe even later? What is your theory on the release of this game? Tell me down in the comments below your opinion. Also, make sure to subscribe, like this video, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord server, turn on notifications. Really awesome if you did. This has been Matt, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever that is going to be. So yeah.